They made this San Diego street corner look like they were in a war zone because they were so completely unprepared and untrained and flummoxed by all of the neighbors and passersby.
Okay, here we go. So Rachel Maddow from MSNBC has decided to have a meltdown over this.
Back up! Yeah, back up!
So basically, Homeland Security went into a neighborhood in San Diego, found illegal immigrants working in a restaurant, and this is how Rachel Maddow is spinning the situation. It's all Donald Trump's fault. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
At a popular Italian restaurant in the lovely Balboa Park neighborhood of San Diego this weekend. Now, hi, you guys. Somebody apparently told these guys from HSI, these guys from Homeland Security Investigations that they were going to be invading Fallujah on Friday afternoon. Right? I mean, this was bananas. This is a popular...
Already off the bat, trying to stir the pot. It looks like we're invading Fallujah.
Italian restaurant in San Diego. Just as they were opening for dinner on a beautiful Friday afternoon, multiple clown cars full of Trump's HSI agents in full battle rattle with helmets and long guns and flak jackets and goggles and masks and the whole thing. I mean, literally looking like they were going to rappel out of helicopters into the Tora Bora cave complex to fight Al-Qaeda.
These, military connections, first off, they are very incoherent. You need to learn a little bit about your history, Rachel Maddow. Talking about Tora Bora, we used horses in Tora Bora, by the way, Rachel. We didn't rappel into Tora Bora. Second off, she's talking about goggles and flak jackets. Again, she's setting up the scene as if this is a destructive operation caused by the Trump administration, and all of these protesters did absolutely nothing wrong.
These guys dressed like this run into a neighborhood Italian restaurant and reportedly handcuffed the entire crew working at the restaurant, everybody inside. And then they arrested people who were busboys and wait.
By the way, that's not true. One of the main interviews after this all happened were staff members of the restaurant. So again, this is a generalization, again, to stir the pot. Not every single person was arrested and handcuffed, only illegal immigrants.
Waiters and stuff. And then, unsurprisingly, the whole neighborhood came out to say, what the heck are you doing? Is this Red Dawn? Are we being invaded, Wolverines? This is what you're doing to save us from the terrible menace of, the nice waiter at our favorite local restaurant? Trump's immigration agents had no idea what to do.
Get out of here!
Cowards! Cowards! Cowards!
You should be embarrassed! You should be so embarrassed! It's your face! Look at your face! Look at...
Very convenient of MSNBC to not show you what was actually happening to those Homeland Security officers. I will show you that after this meltdown. Again, what's being presented here, these are just people standing around. They were doing nothing, and Homeland Security showed up in battle rattle, showed up in goggles, and now they're throwing flashbangs.
Ultimately, these Trump immigration agents dressed up like soldiers. They made this San Diego street corner look like they were in a war zone because they were so completely unprepared and untrained and flummoxed by all of the neighbors and passersby, understandably, yelling at them and telling them to leave people alone. They were so scared and so unprepared and so untrained for this completely predictable situation that they set off multiple, what appeared to be these flashbang smoke grenades against the random neighbors in San Diego, against the people on the street who were outraged by what they had done, who were demanding that they identify themselves for one, and that for two, they get out.
If you're expecting Rachel Maddow to say the people who were arrested and detained in that restaurant to be illegal immigrants, of course she won't talk about that.
This kind of thing, seriously, this is not a sign of strength. This is not a show of force. This is a show of weakness and cluelessness.
Ironically, we all agree, Rachel Maddow. We all agree. You see, San Diego is not used to having the law pressed against them as far as deportation laws. And the issue is the generalization of, well, everyone is a great illegal immigrant, even though we know in Boston the people who were just recently arrested as illegal immigrants, we'll get to that later, we know that we just had a terrorist attack over in Colorado. And by the way, this segment has come out after the fact. So Rachel Maddow is well aware you can be an illegal immigrant and be a terrorist at the same time. Now, Rachael Maddow of MSNBC, I find it rather ironic you're not showing clips like this. So as you can see, depending what angle you're watching this all from, of course from this angle it looks like no one is doing anything wrong. But as you can see, when you flip the angle and go to the other side of the event, you got people throwing things at the car, obstructing the vehicle, banging on the vehicle, spitting on the vehicle, which is why flashbangs were dispersed to try and break up the crowd so nobody else gets hurt. But again, according to MSNBC, it's all of Homeland's fault and it's all of Trump's fault.
These guys talked themselves into the idea that the country would be so excited to see them be really performatively cruel to immigrants, right? They thought this would be a great, political advantage for them. We will perform feats of military-like strength, going after immigrants and humiliating them and debasing them and abusing them for public consumption, and that will build our political capital.
By the way, the Trump administration has never said that. If anything, you can argue the opposite. The Trump administration has offered a pathway to leave, make $1,000 and a free flight and an opportunity to come back. Second off, I think Rachel Maddow just did something politically incorrect. She generalized immigrants. Legal immigrants and illegal immigrants, not the same thing. Go ahead and ask a legal immigrant what they think about what Rachel Maddow is saying when you loop everyone together. Because when you do that, Rachel Maddow is also looping people together like this.
ICE quickly moves on its first target and arrests him. He's a Salvadoran illegal alien on El Salvador's most wanted list, with an Interpol red notice out for his arrest for aggravated murder, aggravated kidnapping, and robbery.
But again, based off of Rachel Maddow's logic, you see all of these people are wearing military gear. It looks like they're capturing Fallujah, and this is just an immigrant. So we got to be a little more careful on who we're detaining.
Yeah, this car is going to pick you up, right?
ICE then arrested this Salvadoran illegal alien, who was previously convicted of child rape. He was deported in 2017 after he went to prison and illegally re-entered the U.S. He was found living right next to this children's playground.
And again, these guys are wearing military gear, and they did this while he's near a playground. How could they do that? This is the problem conservatives have with people like Rachel Maddow and the reporting on MSNBC. The simple truth is you have this bias that seems to be ignoring what's actually happening. That when you generalize everybody as an immigrant or a migrant or an undocumented migrant, you also are looping in the actual violent illegal immigrants, which everybody gets harmed by, and Rachel Maddow is just ignoring what's actually happening here.
So you guys just snagged a previously deported, convicted child rapist living 100 yards from a child's playground. Is that unusual out here?
Not in Massachusetts. It's not unusual. Due to the open border policies, we are finding that plenty of people who have been previously deported and committed heinous crimes and were removed from the country are now back here, just living among us.
Now, MSNBC did not report on this, of course, because statistically speaking, a lot of these men ended up being really violent criminals. It wasn't just 1 or 2 out of the 1,000. It was a lot. I think it was like 700 plus. Now, when I was doing research for this video, I found that on election night, really nothing has changed. Listen to this conversation real quick.
You just think about just the last 2 weeks and the things that Donald Trump has said into the TV that people could hear him say and do, the vulgarity in front of families with young children, and the threats to do mass deportation and a violent start to his dictatorship on day one, and you name it.
By the way, she was fired, just so you guys are aware.
If all of that gets you half of the votes,
48, 49%.
What does it tell you? I mean, we need to really take a step back and think about what does that say about us?
I think
MSNBC really missed the mark on election night and in general. There was a lot of hype for Kamala Harris from all of these reporters, and then they were shocked that Kamala lost. You see, it turns out that 60+% of Americans actually want these deportations. Generally speaking, that's anyone. So when MSNBC gets upset that a father who was working here illegally, who's probably a really good guy, he got deported, the majority of Americans want that, which is a tough pill to swallow. But then when you get to actually violent criminals, like we know this guy is a violent criminal, we're going to deport you, it's way more. We get into like the 80+ to 90s. Americans want deportations, and from the very beginning, MSNBC could not accept this, let alone happening in San Diego. How could this happen? Now, another very tough pill to swallow for not only Rachel Maddow, but the opposition to deportations is that generally speaking, you have Democrats who have committed the most deportations. Now, Donald Trump, as he gets later in his term, he will probably be up in the 4 to 5-ish millions. That is the goal for the Trump administration, mathematically speaking. But when you look at Clinton, Obama, and Biden, way more deportations than Donald Trump. So again, this outrage and pointing out what Homeland Security is doing is quite ridiculous, especially when you look at these numbers.
The DHS Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, I think it's quite alarming. As Bill Maloogian was reporting that, Tricia, he and I said, this was all in one day. And this is just one state, one city, one state. How much bigger is this across the country?
Dana, it's even bigger. And I do want to note that these protesters are emboldened by politicians like Tim Walz, who likens our brave ICE enforcement officers to the Gestapo and to Nazis. A Democrat representative, Dan Goldman, out of New York yesterday just held a press conference, again likening our ICE enforcement officers to the Gestapo. Our ICE officers are facing a 400% increase in assaults against them. Meanwhile, they're just trying to make American communities safer. As Bill mentioned, just in the last week alone, we've arrested off the streets of Boston MS-13 gang members, Tren de Aragua, convicted murderers, child rapists, truly the worst of the worst, who have been in our American streets with impunity for the last 4 years.
Now, the argument for Democrats is this. We understand and we agree. We want you to go after these people. However, when it comes to, the good ones, the good illegal immigrants, they should be left alone. But the problem with that argument is you don't know who's who unless you catch them because they are undocumented. They are illegal. So no matter a solution, an illegal immigrant is going to have to give themselves up and say, look, I haven't done anything wrong. But of course that can't happen because then they will be deported. So at this point, the only solution as of right now are these deportations. I also want to point out the original goal for the Trump administration, go to the prison systems, don't go into the communities. But since nobody wants to work with the Trump administration, as far as a lot of these sanctuary states and cities, now we're seeing mass deportations. Again, a lot of people are not educated in what the original plan was. It was never what we're seeing right now.
And Dana, what's important to remember is that these sanctuary city politicians, their policies create magnets for these criminal aliens to come into these communities because they know that there's not repercussions at the hands of the city and that the city will in fact hamstring our ICE enforcement officers.
Like we're seeing in San Diego. It literally is a law in that area. You cannot inquire about somebody being an illegal immigrant. However, local police departments, they can arrest you if you've done something wrong. And if you happen to be an illegal immigrant, you might get deported, you might not. But when you think about it, on the worst scale, if you are somebody who's evil and you're in this country illegally, you're not going to go into Texas, you're not going to go into Georgia, you're not going to go into a super conservative state where they're going to be deporting you, or Florida. I'm going to go to San Diego, I'm going to hide out, I'm going to blend in, and then I might do something bad like we saw in Colorado. Now, if you've made it this far in the video, I have a little surprise for you. Let us remember what Rachel Maddow said about Elon Musk.
Elon Musk has apparently somehow convinced the United States government, specifically the United States Department of State, that the taxpayers of the United States of America should spend $400 million buying, quote, armored Tesla production units. Isn't it great and definitely not at all illegal or profoundly corrupt? Definitely not ripping us all off to pay themselves, right?
Donald Trump didn't give that contract to Elon Musk. Joe Biden gave it to him.
So again, Rachael Maddow from MSNBC, she can get things wrong as well. And in my personal humble opinion, I think she really got the reporting super wrong and super biased as far as what we saw in San Diego. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I haven't covered a Rachael Maddow MSNBC meltdown in a very long time. Let me know if you guys want me to do more videos like this. If you're still watching, thank you guys so much. God bless, and we'll see you all later. Peace.